Rick, I'm really excited about buying an investment property. Should I buy a detached house, townhouse, work live unit, condo? Tell me. Well, I will tell you that, especially for your first investment property, you should buy. Please note the full disclaimer here, which is also located in the About section of my YouTube channel. A condo, of course. Come on, did the answer really surprise you? Again, that's just my opinion. Let me share with you a little story about my first investment, which actually was a house, a detached house in Hamilton. And here it is, folks. This is the first investment I ever made in my life. In 2009, I bought this detached small bungalow in Hamilton. The main level had 3 bedrooms, a small family room, and a kitchen. The basement, 2 bedrooms, and a kitchen. And you could see the separate side entrance there. 13 years ago. Boy, this brings back the memories. Back then, 2009, I bought this Hamilton house thinking this is going to be a fantastic investment. I'm going to make so much money. I'm going to make quick, easy money and, no work. This is a cash machine. Well, to my surprise, there was a lot of work involved in it. So I lived in Mississauga at the time. Every time I had to go to the actual house in Hamilton, I had to drive like at least 40 minutes to get there from where I lived. I had to deal with constant tenant turnover, squabbles between the tenants. I had each room up on the main level rented out to 3 different people. So there'd be situations where there were, arguments and things between the different tenants on the main level, and then the basement I had it rented to a couple, and they had squabbles with the people from upstairs and vice versa. There was other things I had to deal with, like the 2-bag garbage limit that was there, and of course with all those people in there producing so much extra garbage. Winter came, driveway wasn't cleared. I had to deal with a lot of snow there. The roof I had to replace. It was pretty old when I first bought it. I knew I had to replace it, but again, it's one of those things that I had to go down there and oversee with the roofer. So a lot of things that I had to deal with. Sometimes when I'd have to get another renter, I would drive all the way down there. That person said they were interested, but they never showed up. So, wasn't a piece of cake. Now, of course, hindsight is 2020. These days, had I still had that, it'd be worth quite a bit, and I'd be laughing by now. But at that time, I made the decision that I thought was best. To put the icing on the cake there, the final straw that broke my back, figuratively speaking, of course, not literally, was when one of the tenants in one of the rooms on the main level, used this, I guess, cheap power cord and plugged like a million things in there and actually started a fire. So we get this phone call, and I drove down there. Fire department was there, and they had just put out the fire. Smoke damage, fire damage, of course, a lot of water damage because of them using the fire hose to put out the fire, of course. They leaking downstairs. Anyway, disaster. Couldn't believe it. Thankfully, the most important thing is that nobody was hurt. That's the last thing I would have needed. But regardless, that was the final straw, and I said, I'm done with this. So in 2012, I sold that Hamilton house, and after you factor in the the realtor commission of selling it, the the lawyer fees to do the closing. I'll be lucky if I made a couple of grand at that. So again, my first foray into the investment property field was not a very successful one, but I did learn a few things, a lot of things actually, and I applied those to my investment strategy moving forward. So I decided now, based on my learnings, that for myself anyway, I needed my next investment to be something lower maintenance, more passive, less of a headache. So that's when I bought this pre-construction unit in Mississauga, right within walking distance of Square One Shopping Mall. And I put down a deposit and waited a few years for it to be built. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like this investment was a huge slam dunk either, but I also did learn a few things from this one as well, and I did do a little bit better than the Hamilton house. So, I purchased this basically on paper because it was pre-construction, wasn't even built yet, not even the foundation was dug up. So, I bought it basically based on the floor plans. Purchased it for about $255,000 at the time. Came with a locker, parking, and when you add in all the closing costs that come about with pre-construction condo, such as development, levies, carry-on warranty, and land transfer taxes, a few other things, the total ended up being closer to about $271,000. Now let me tell you, headache-wise, really no headaches at all. I had 2 tenants only for the whole duration of the 4 years that I held this property, from 2013, which was the occupancy, and 2017, early in 2017 when I sold it. No maintenance, no shoveling the driveway, no cutting the grass. When I sold it, I did have to break the mortgage. However, because it was variable, I only had to pay like 3 months interest penalty, so it wasn't a huge deal. Bottom line is, I sold this for just under $300,000. By the time I paid the real estate costs, the lawyer's fees, the mortgage breakage fee, all in all, I ended up with a capital gain of only about $11,000. So not a huge amount, but again, it was a very passive, didn't have to do much type of investment. On top of that, the cash flow, I will tell you, based on what I got for rent, subtract all the costs like condo fees, maintenance, property taxes, and insurance, there really was no cash flow. It was $0 in essence. It was cash flow neutral. So I didn't make any money on the cash flow part, but it was paying for itself. And the important part here I want to stress is that part of that payment of the mortgage was going towards the principal. So that was slowly being paid off. So on top of making the $11,000 in profit because of appreciation, although I made zero in cash flow, like I just said, $10,000 of the mortgage was paid down. So that's also value and should be factored into the return. So all in all, I ended up with a good chunk of equity because at this time when I purchased it, the required deposit by the actual builder was 25%. So when all was said and done, I ended up having close to $100,000 ready to deploy into my next investment. So again, I just do want to stress it wasn't $100,000 profit. It was only actually a measly $11,000 profit and 10,000 mortgage pay down. But because again I had put down 25% on the original purchase price, I was able, of course, to get that equity back out when I sold it. So I was able to then take this knowledge, take the learnings here, and be ready to move on to my next investment. Bye for now.